having the local authority and the trade unions as part of that structure, whereas free schools don't have any of that. They are pulling out, they're exclusive. So it's using our language but not adopting our values. Now we think that there are some really important issues, dividing lines if you like, that kind of exemplify what we're talking about, and they're our current campaigns that show why mutuals make a difference, but also why the Conservatives aren't entrusted with this agenda. Our big campaign that we've been running since the collapse of the banking sector is the Feelings Mutual. If you think about all those building societies that demutualised in the 90s and through to 2000 when Northern Rock demutualised, Halifax, Woolwich, Northern Rock, Bradford and Bingley, Alliance and Leicester, not a single one of them is an independent bank anymore. Most of the building societies that stay building societies have continued. One or two of them got into trouble, as the entire financial sector went down. They brought a few of the building societies, and one or two of them weren't doing the right things. But every single building society that demutualised came down with that. They've taken over by the government, the brand name disappeared off the high street, or like the Halifax and the Woolwich, they've just simply been bought out or merged. So they're all gone. Now, the answer with the government's looking to what it does with the Northern Rock, with the good bit, which is the unprofitable bit at the moment, we don't think that it's enough to put Northern Rock simply back the way it was. This is an opportunity. This is an opportunity to put the economy in, to shape the economy, to shape the financial sector in a way that puts it back on track, that creates a fairer model. And building societies and a strong mutual sector should be an outcome that we want. If mutuals survive the credit crisis better, then why are we going to increase the banking, the PLC sector at the expense of the mutual sector? So we've been calling now for 3 years for Northern Rock to be remutualised. It can be remutualised by an existing mutual buying it, and because of the borrowing requirements and the regulations around mutuals, it's likely that to a building society, the value of the current asset of Northern Rock is less than it would be to the bank. It's just, the actual value of those assets to them is a different one. So it would be a conscious decision by the government. It would have to be to take slightly less in receipt for this asset if it were to sell to a existing building society or the Co-op bank. But it's dubious to see whether they're interested. One or two of them, Coventry, have said that they are. We would prefer, and have put together models which we've shared with the Shadow Treasury team and indeed with UKFI, a model for remutualising it and recreating it as a building society, as a modern form of building society. Remutualising Northern Rock would mean righting the wrongs of Thatcher when she allowed the demutualisations which led to the shady and catastrophic, with hopefully not hyperbole, disaster that we saw just a few years ago. But it would also be reshaping the economy in a way that's fairer, putting it back. So we think that exemplifies, and we've asked our local parties, many of our activists have been supporting the campaign. We've got a website, thefeelingsmutual.org.uk, and it goes into much more of the business and economic case, but it also is about showing how mutuals fared the crisis better, weathered the crisis better, and why they can continue to do so. Unite, Compass, Progress, they've all been doing their own versions of the campaign or supporting ours, and over 100 MPs have signed EDMs on 2 occasions now. So it's not an unpopular issue, but it is one that George Osborne has said no to. And indeed, Vince Cable went into the election saying that he backed remutualisation and came out the other side saying he no longer saw a case. We think it would be the single biggest thing that the government could do to signal their intent, which is in the coalition agreement, to support the mutual sector. Yet they seem to be letting it go by. And even more seriously, it looks like the UKFI and the Treasury have done no actual work to investigate whether it's a good idea. Speeches by politicians don't count if your civil servants aren't doing the work to actually see if it's a viable alternative. We're also have been campaigning for a couple of years on Network Rail. Network Rail is currently an unaccountable structure. When the government rightly took over Railtrack and set up a structure that the public could be confident in, probably an unintended consequence of that was that a few executives managed to pay themselves hefty bonuses and salaries regardless of the success of their company, because they no longer had ministers breathing down their necks if they were accountable directly to the public, and they didn't have shareholders saying, well, you've got my investment, what are you doing with it? They were unaccountable to anyone. They have a members' council of members that they themselves appoint who hold them to account. So we think that those members should actually be accountable to us. I think that's someone from Network Rail there. We think that they should be accountable to us. We think the rail-using public and the taxpayers who invest so much subsidy in Network Rail. So a cooperative, a mutual structure for Network Rail is also what we're proposing. And that's the People's Rail campaign. And again, many of our local parties have got involved and handed out postcards outside local stations. And we've had parliamentarians. Louise Ellman, who chairs the Transport Select Committee and is one of our members of Parliament, has been very supportive of that campaign as well. And finally, in terms by way of our campaigns and as an example of the work that we're doing and how working in partnership with the Labour Party we're trying to reclaim this space and achieve the objectives, is the Cooperative Councils Network, which we're launching tomorrow. In fact, Ed Miliband is launching it tomorrow in Rochdale, which is the home of the cooperative movement. It's where the co-op movement was founded in 1844, so it's an obvious place to launch this network. And at the moment, it's 13 councils or opposition Labour groups, mainly majority Labour groups, who've signed up to incorporate the principles of cooperative councils, which is to cooperative councils are looking at reshaping their services by sharing power, by involving residents in their services, by getting users to shape them. And you may have seen much of what Lambeth are doing. Now, they're taking the word cooperation, and perhaps it's an alternative to the big society in this sense, that some of what they're doing is cooperative models in a traditional sense. Other things are involving residents, devolving budgets. Many of the things that we as councillors and local Labour parties have been doing or advocating for a very long time, not necessarily new ideas, but some of it's new and some of it's challenging because it means letting go, but all our co-op ideas mean letting go at some sense for politicians or users. It does involve the workforce, it does involve tenants of council housing, it does involve users of community facilities. In some cases, like Stevenage, where Sharon Taylor is a Labour and Co-op council leader, they have devolved many of their community centres, even their parks, to the local user groups already, and they're using a kind of a halfway measure. In other places, there's full transfer to community mutuals. There's youth centres and Sure Start centres and other examples all around the country. So these 13 councils, Newcastle, Oldham is a particular one, and of course Lambeth, they're getting on board this campaign, and we're looking to sign up plenty more in the coming months. We're doing it in partnership with the LGA Labour Group, so obviously got the blessing and support of Ed Miliband and the front bench, and I think it's about showing that these are Labour councils doing this in a difficult time, in a time of cuts. Well, we can't promise that becoming a cooperative council will save money. In some cases it might, in other cases, democracy is a frontline service too. And you have to invest in it if you want the best out of it. So it can save money in some instances, but it's not that's not a reason to do it. It's not a shortcut to or an alternative to difficult decisions that councillors, I know here in Lewisham, you too, have had to make. But maybe this is the time to consider it, and when you are reshaping services because of circumstances beyond your control. So those are the big three campaigns we're looking at, and we've just, in the last couple of weeks, I'm a communications officer, so what I do all day is tweet and update our Facebook page, and we've just created a new website at www.party.coop, and lots of more ideas and welcoming contributions and comments on the website. It's colourful and bright and shows off our ideas much better. So come and look at our website, find out more there. I've got some information at the back and some membership forms too.